I think I figured out the ending of Stranger Things. Mike Wheeler is the key to stopping Vecna. He's the reason the UpsideDown is frozen on November 6th. Stop scrolling and let me cook. I promise you, this theory is going to blow your freaking mind. The UpsideDown looks like a mirror of Hawkins for a reason. That reason is Mike, and I have proof. For obvious reasons, I've seen many people theorize that this was caused by Will somehow when he was taken. But never Mike until my theory went viral a few days ago. Hear me out, because this twist has been hidden in plain sight the whole time, set up in the opening of the very first episode. Everything about the party's first D&D game was and will be an extreme case of foreshadowing, including the fact that Mike was Dungeon Master. This whole time he's been unconsciously creating the rules to the UpsideDown. If you rewatch the show with this in mind, you'll notice that Mike is always right. He's always predicted what's gonna happen in the lore behind all of the monsters. And that's because in the opening of the show, Mike was playing D&D the same day, the same time 11 would have opened the Mother Gate. Whatever the explanation ends up being though, I believe that this twist was set up in the opening of the very first episode, along with the fact Mike never finished his D&D game that night. When Karen forced Mike to end his game early, he begged her for 20 more minutes specifically, to no avail. He also begs Ted for more time, which is when the TV starts losing signal. I'm gonna go ahead and clock that as suspicious timing and that it was actually caused by Mike in this moment, affecting the flow of time in the UpsideDown. Or maybe this is even gonna be 11 jumping into Mike's mind. That might be a stretch, but either way, I think the static is gonna be recontextualized in some way. As will this line from Lucas.
Was it 7? Did Mike see it? Then it doesn't count.
This isn't just throwaway dialogue, it's foreshadowing, because after Mike fails to get more time from his mom, that's when the party heads outside to say their goodbyes, which is when Will confesses the truth to Mike.
It was a 7. Huh? The roll. It was a 7. The Demogorgon. It got me.
And when what Lucas just said a scene prior becomes literal, because it's only after Mike hears that Will rolled a 7
See you tomorrow.
that the Demogorgon gets him. Specifically after Will says, "See you tomorrow," with the garage light behind Mike flickers. Supposed to assume that this is just a coincidence, but it's not. This is the moment Mike accidentally sent the Demogorgon after Will, and maybe even when he changed to mention X to be a mirror of Hawkins frozen on that same night.
Joyce says time is funny like that. Emotions can make it speed up or slow down.
In the season 4 opening, 11 says emotions can make time speed up or slow down. Well, I think it even caused time to stop.
See you tomorrow.
And the time is frozen on November 6th because Mike wanted to keep playing D&D with Will. In Hattery's origin story, we are shown the exact same thing. The very first time his powers activated, we are shown lights flickering behind him. Lights are also flickering behind Mike when we see Will become a sorcerer. This is not a coincidence. Mike's campaign never really ended. They're still playing it. If Mike froze time in this moment by creating a mirror of Hawkins, that means the night Mike didn't want to end never really ended. His D&D game literally became a never-ending story. This would explain the stalker-like shots of Mike. Vecna is watching him, but not because he's gonna get Vecna'd like many believe. Mike is somehow connected to the wormhole, which is why we are shown Mike running late at the start of every season. It's dramatic irony and also foreshadows his race against the clock that I suspect he will face during the finale. Meaning all of this is happening because Karen didn't let my boy Mike have 20 more minutes to finish his game. It's not a coincidence that in the most recent D&D game, we see them roll a natural 20. I feel like it's a sign that in the end, Mike is finally going to be able to finish his game. Maybe because the past will be changed. More on that in part 2 though, along with how I originally thought of this theory back in 2022, based entirely off of this poster hanging in Mike's room. I think it shows us exactly how season 5 will end, when Mike finally realizes and accepts the truth.
You have no power over me.
Mike Wheeler is the key to stopping Vecna. He's the reason the UpsideDown is frozen on November 6th. It was hinted at by this news segment in season 3.
Mysterious deaths, government cover-ups, a vast conspiracy, something more going on in the heartland. Can a town itself be cursed?
Exactly 20 minutes into season 3, episode 8, the duffers cut to a TV which says,
Tune in tonight at 8 p.m. for Horror in the Heartland.
Mike is literally the heart. His heart is where the show's horrors are all coming from. In other words, I think the UpsideDown and the Mind Flayer are both physical embodiments of Mike's trauma, specifically his internalized tubophobia, and the pressure he feels to conform by rejecting his nerdy and childish interests in order to become what he perceives to be a quote-unquote normal adult. Same with this wall we were shown in season 5 part 1. It exists in the Upside Down as another physical representation of Mike's internalized homophobia, specifically his shame. I believe that this poster framed behind Mike foreshadows this. It's for a Pink Floyd movie called The Wall. When I looked up what the wall symbolizes in the movie, this is what I discovered. It represents self-imposed isolation, emotional repression, and psychological defense mechanisms. I think this wall will be a very similar metaphor in Stranger Things. It's going to be a physical manifestation of his psychological state. Shame, particularly sexual shame, and the inability to connect. Meaning that just as I predicted years ago in my viral Flickergate theory, Mike and Will are going to kiss to Heroes by David Bowie, and this specific lyric will be literal. If all of this is true though, how can Vecna be defeated? By Mike Wheeler accepting himself. Just like Will, Mike needs to accept himself in order to finally control his abilities. In the stage play, it was revealed that the Mind Flayer is influencing Vecna, not the other way around. So if Mike is connected to the Mind Flayer, Vecna can be defeated once Mike takes control of his power. When he realizes the truth about the Upside Down and himself, thus ending the Mind Flayer's influence over Henry. I believe that this twist is what's being foreshadowed by the one-way sign, pointing directly into Mike's closet, as well as the mirror. Because coming out of the closet is the only way for Mike to fully access his power. The one way for him to put an end to the Upside Down, which is also a mirror of himself and Hawkins, is for Mike to fully accept himself. The most important clue leading me to this interpretation is the poster of MC Escher's Relativity hanging directly underneath the one-way sign. I think it was specifically hung up to reference the same poster in Sarah's room in the 80s movie Labyrinth. This singular poster is how I initially figured out this entire twist 3 years ago. You can read those posts here, but essentially, back then I noticed tons of visual and thematic parallels between Stranger Things and Labyrinth. The most obvious being the jump scare grandfather clock, which in my opinion is clearly an homage to the one from Labyrinth. But what interests me most is how closely Mike and Sarah's character arcs potentially mirror each other. Each of them accidentally spins a fantasy realm out of their nerdy and childish interest. For Sarah's to play and for Mike is D&D. And within both fantasies turned real, both of them go through the same coming-of-age journey, centering figuring out who you are with a focus on puberty and budding sexuality, as well as realizing you don't have to give up the things you loved as kids in order to, quote, grow up. For Sarah, that's toys, and for Mike, it is D&D and also toys. This parallel also stood out to me. The scene where Sarah accidentally wishes for her little brother Toby to be kidnapped into her fantasy world is extremely similar to the scene where I believe Mike does the same to Will. Back to the shared relativity poster though. It foreshadows the film's climax, when Sarah finally breaks free of her self-imposed fantasy. This is where she comes face to face with the villain, played by David Bowie, who tells her this.
Everything that you wanted, I have done. You asked that the child be taken. I took him. You cowered before me. I was frightening. I have reordered time. I have turned the world upside down, and I have done it all for you.
She is able to resist him though, ultimately overcoming his temptations and illusions by finding herself and her true desires.
You have no power over me.
Well, I believe the climax of Stranger Things will parallel the climax of Labyrinth. Because just like Sarah, Mike will finally accept his true desires, as well as realize the truth about the fantasy, the Upside Down. He will realize that he holds all the power, which is when the Upside Down collapses, and the Mind Flayer and Vecna lose all power over him. In Labyrinth, saying this line means she's ready to grow up without giving up her imagination. The instant she remembers, she reclaims control. The fantasy world collapses not because she rejects it, but because she finally understands it's hers. If this is where Season 5 is going, then the climatic twist isn't Eleven defeating Vecna. It's Mike realizing and accepting the truth about the Upside Down and himself. It's him admitting he loves Will and taking control of his powers. This is when time resumes in the Upside Down collapses, the Mind Flayer evaporates, and Vecna is free of the Mind Flayer. The story becomes a queer love is so strong, it rewrites reality instead of freezing it. As I said earlier, I think the past will be changed. I'm not exactly sure how yet, but I have a few theories. After both the Upside Down collapses and the Mind Flayer is destroyed, in the end, everyone who died as a result of Mike will come back to life, because they will never have died in the first place. What Mr. Clark told them in Season 1 was foreshadowing.
There's a world out there where none of this tragic stuff ever happened.
As well as this scene at the end of Season 3.
So I think maybe that's why I came in here. To turn back the clock. To make things go back to how they were.
I think if this this happens, out of all the characters, 11 will be the one to lose her memory as well as her powers, because she will never be experimented on in the first place. This is just based off of my analysis of her character arc, but I think 11's story has to end with her getting the normal childhood she's wanted so badly throughout the series, which means in the end, only Jane exists and she is a stranger to Hopper and Mike. Mike's fear is realized, but it's not a bad thing.
But what if after all this is over, she doesn't need me anymore?
Of course she'll still need you. She'll always need you, Mike.
I keep telling myself that, but I don't believe it. The truth is, when I stumbled on her in the woods, she just needed someone. It's not fate, it's not destiny, it's just simple dumb luck.
11 doesn't need Mike in the end, but she is happy. Everything comes full circle when Mike's arc alters 11 by finally confronting the truth. He also resets the timeline by choosing honesty over fear. Mike closes the door in the future the Mind Flayer was trying to impose the Rim, and that choice is what frees 11. Mike's growth allows 11's story to end the way it was always supposed to. Not as a weapon or a superhero, but as Jane, someone who finally gets a real childhood, a real life separate from him. Both of them get what they've needed from the start. She finds normalcy, and he accepts the part of himself that's different.